Alrighty folks, welcome back to another episode. Today we're back here on the lake, as you can see, and just wanted to shoot a quick little video kind of talking about a full breakdown of like my Wacky rig, Neko rig setup. It seems really simple, but there's a lot of different, little things that I add that I think helps me get more bites, and most importantly helps me land fish, because you're not fishing for a whole lot of bites. And at the end of the day, you want to be as efficient as you can and not lose many fish. So I'm gonna kind of run through my setup. So starting with the bait, obviously 5-inch Gary Yamamoto Senko is going to be my go-to. Keep it very simple. So when I'm on the back deck, I'll have like 2 bags in my pocket. This here is watermelon just because kind of ran out at the last tournament, but I generally always throw green pumpkin black flake and then a black and blue, and I'll generally throw green pumpkin most of the time. Sometimes I'll put a little chartreuse on the tip. In the spring, I think that helps a little bit getting more bites. But as far as the color selection, it's very simple. And then if I can't find either of those colors, which happens quite a bit when I'm on the road, I'll just pick up honestly whatever's there at the local tackle shop. But a 5-inch Yamamoto is key just because of the way this bait sinks, and how soft it is. I think does help get a little bit more bites. Maybe it doesn't, but regardless, just that's been my go-to for a long time. And what I'll do is the night before, I'll pre-rig a couple of Senkos just like this with a Neko rig nail weight in it. Get one out right here. So generally I'm always going to go with the lightest Neko rig weight that I can find, which is going to be a 1/32. I haven't seen any lighter than that, but this right here is a tungsten. Lead is generally what I use, but you go through a lot of weights, they'll fall out of the bait, you'll cast off your Senko, so lead's a lot cheaper, and pretty much just going to stick it there in the nose of the Senko. And when I get around areas or banks that are a little bit deeper, and it's a little bit more efficient for me to have that nail weight up in the front of the bait, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll have a couple rigged. I'll have one rigged weightless, one with the nail weight, and then with this rod right here, what I can do is when I see a situation where I need to switch, I'll just unhook the bait and then put the Neko rig on, or vice versa, because I use the same hook for both techniques. And generally I do not have enough spinning rods with me to where I can just rig up Neko and a Wacky rig, because I like to have a drop shot or shaky head also rigged up. But kind of going into the setup, the meat and potatoes for this deal I throw. So right here we got a a Vanford 2500. These are newer Shimano reels, I believe, kind of like an updated Stratic, but really the big thing with this is a smooth drag system. When I'm fighting fish, that's going to allow me to have a much higher chance of me landing fish, and that's where you see the price difference between a $500 spinning reel versus a $50 spinning reel. This right here I think is around $230-ish, so not too bad, doesn't break the bank too bad, but that's really key. And then the 2500 side, that's what I've thrown for quite a while. I feel like the 3000 is a little bit too big for me. I know a lot of guys do like to throw that, but I'll stick with the 2500, spool it with 10-pound braid. I think this right here is actually 12, but I'll do 10 or 12-pound braid. It gives me a little bit extra sensitivity, casting distance, and then on certain techniques, it's going to give you a little bit more action as well, just because that line, that thinner diameter, is going to cut through the water a little bit better. And as far as brand, it doesn't really matter. I just stick with 8-strand braid, so that's going to be a little bit smoother than your 4-strand. Your 4-strand is going to be what you want when you're spooling on a frog rod or a buzzbait rod, or something where you're going to need to cut through that grass, because that's going to be a little bit rougher than this 8-strand. This comes through the guides really well, casts really well, and the braid just allows you to not have any stretch when you're setting the hook. But you also get the same benefits of fluorocarbon because I like to tie a leader. I'll generally bounce between 10 and 12. Not so much because of water clarity or, you know, the fish seeing it, but it's more so going to be the depth range that I'm fishing. You know, that water clarity definitely has a factor. Like if I'm up on the St. Lawrence, obviously, yeah, I'm going to go to an 8 or 6 pound fluorocarbon. But the main reason that you're going to want to do that is so that this line will cut through the water better. Because with a 10 pound fluorocarbon, it's going to allow for a little bit better action. It's going to allow your line to cut through the water better. So if you're fishing deeper or you just need to fish more efficiently, putting a lighter line on will allow that bait to sink a little bit faster. Now, as far as the rod, this is a 703 Dobyns Champion Extreme. For a long time, I used just the Champion XP, which is the level below this Champion Extreme. Both have been great rods. This one's a little bit softer, so I think I might switch back probably to a Champion XP, but they've both been great. Have not really ran into any issues as far as losing fish, and just like all Dobyns rods, they're extremely sensitive. And then that's pretty much all that I run for my setup. And then as far as the hook, this is just a Neko rig hook. A couple brands that I like, Owner Jungle Wacky hook is good. The Decoy Cover Finesse HD is a really good hook. I haven't gotten my hands on those in a while, but those have been really good hooks. This right here is a VMC that I've been playing with, just a Neko hook. It's been all right. No complaints, but I haven't been throwing it for too long. But that's pretty much the rundown of what I do in the back of the boat with this Neko Wacky rig setup. I throw this, I would say, at least 50% of the time if I'm anywhere around largemouth, fishing shallow with my boater. I'm gonna be throwing this a bunch. And then another thing I think that I didn't mention is there's a couple different ways you can rig your Senkos. You know, you have O-rings, you have the rubber bands, those G7 bands. But I found personally that the best way to rig it, whether you're rigging Neko or Wacky rig, is to take the bait and the hook and you just go straight through the middle. The reasoning behind this, when it's sitting on a O-ring or a rubber band or you know, those like worm tube kind of things that they have, it's gonna sit right up here. So I'm not sure if you guys can really see that with the camera, but when you go to cast, this bait is flopping through the air, comes up, it'll hook this top part like that, and a lot of times it'll mess up your bait. And not only will that pretty much ruin your cast, but I have had times where it'll hook, that hook point will go through this bait because it's sitting on that O-ring when I go to cast, and a fish actually bites it, set the hook, but you can't get the hook point through the fish because that bait is stuck on the hook point. So I remember last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, at Chickamauga, I lost some key fish that I think really would have gotten me close to winning that event. And I kind of switched it up, didn't use an O-ring at the next event, which was the Potomac River, and ended up winning that event, did not lose a single fish. So might just be kind of a superstition thing because of how the results have been for me, but I know John Cox is one of the best shallow fishermen in the country, and he throws the Wacky rig a bunch, and that's the way that he does it. So I think the best deal would be to follow suit with him. But that is pretty much all I got. That's pretty much all I got as far as the way I like to rig this little deal here. I know when I go to tournaments a lot, you know, guys that I talk to know I throw it a lot and like to ask questions about my setup and stuff. So I figured I'd just shoot a video and let all of you guys know how I do it with the Wacky and Neko rigs. So thanks again, guys, for watching, and we'll see you on another episode of Carter with Jenko Fishing.